MDM into how you can expose data as a service, leveraging the principles of data architecture. That's a huge win. So first three steps is of paramount importance. Fourth, now look at how do you really bring technology into play. You will now have a strong foundation on how you manage the data as part of your data strategy. Now you can accelerate that by applying the technology, and technology enables you to go faster and scale up easily. Technology brings in the cutting edge capabilities, could be intelligent data platforms which have a built-in AI ML capability, could be automated data security, identity access management capabilities to secure your data. Storage and performance on cloud could actually be highly available and scalable as well. Not but not least, interoperability, ability to move data across your enterprise and inter-enterprises between your enterprise and then a third party can actually be robust, secure, faster by having the right technology aligned with step number one, two, and three. So four steps will ensure that you're in the right direction. But now, how do you really manage this change and build the capabilities? So step five and six will ensure that you apply data and technology together as a cohesive force in terms of meeting the needs of advanced analytics and capabilities that are needed for AI/ML initiatives in your company. While you do this, very important is how do you manage the change? Data literacy and cross-functional collaboration, communication about step one to five that you have been doing actually can be robust, faster, effective if you're able to articulate its benefit on why you are doing it and what are you doing it on and how are you doing it, and how these initiatives are aligned with strategic objectives of your company by ensuring you manage the change well. It's going to be a transformative journey, but the transformation happens by effective communication through literacy programs, through cross-functional collaborations. Now, when you do step one to six, seven is all about monitoring. It's all about measuring how your objectives are translating into outcomes, having established KPIs. Going back to my first slide of competitive advantage, right? Can we measure how quickly can we onboard a customer? Today we might be taking 2 weeks to onboard a customer into our business, but can I do this in 2 hours using all the components of the framework? That's one KPI. We have been paying, say, 50 million as a penalty for not complying to certain regulatory compliance of the rules. But can I bring this to $0? Is another KPI by adopting the principles and the steps that we have discussed here. So ensure that you have monitoring and optimization, which can be acting like a feedback loop between one and seven. And this systematic way of uh, prioritizing your needs and adopting them into enterprise architecture can actually make your strategy more robust. Many benefits that you get out of it. One is just to keep it simple. While you do this, you establish data as an asset. Enterprise data architecture, as we understand from TOGAF, this simplifies the streamlining of data. You will have a streamlined way in which you onboard data, you store it, and make it interoperable. When you make it interoperable, when you democratize data, that means that you're putting data to play for making strategic decisions, and you do this in context of your business objectives. That's when we can call the data as a strategic asset, because it fosters innovation and growth. While you do this, ensure that you manage data with its highest level of quality. As I highlighted, emphasized, data governance and master data management is of paramount importance, because you need to achieve that quality of data to fuel your business operations. Veracity is very important today. Veracity is all about truth. It's about trusted data. How do you find trusted data is very important. With this, I will leave you with few key takeaways, and I hope this insights is useful for you. Please take a screenshot if you like to connect with me. And if you have any questions, you can drop me an email, or you can even in the chat window. And let's feel free to connect with each other. And I hope these learnings, these insights will help you go back to your enterprise architecture initiatives and align this with the data strategies formulated in your companies. With this, I would like to end my presentation. I hope this was really useful. This is a very heavy topic, but I hope it gave you a glimpse of what data strategy means and how it can blend with enterprise architecture. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Vinay. Super interesting session there. So thank you very much for the contribution. We are just a couple of minutes over time. So if people have any questions, please direct them to Vinay directly. He's also going to be moderating a panel discussion later, so you can ask questions there too. So yeah, big thank you again for joining us today.
Thank you.
All right, wonderful. The next session will be starting right away, so feel free to make your way there. Thanks, everyone.
Of data to fuel your business operations. Veracity is very important today. Veracity is all about truth. It's about trusted data. How do you find trusted data is very important. With this, I will leave you with few key takeaways, and I hope this insights is useful for you. Please take a screenshot if you like to connect with me, and if you have any questions, you can drop me an email, or you can even in the chat window. And let's feel
Privileged to
free to
work
connect with
in
each
some
other.
of the leading
And I hope
organizations
these learnings, these
and
insights will
had the
help you go
opportunity
back
to be
to
involved
your
in a
enterprise
lot of
architecture
the
initiatives and
initiatives in
align
different
this with the
organizations to
data
drive
strategies
innovation,
formulated in your
embed
companies.
the innovation
With
culture.
this, I would like
And
to
I'll just
end my
share
presentation.
the
I
story
hope this
where
was
I have
really
seen something
useful.
that
This is a
really
very heavy
worked
topic,
and
but
that
I hope
really
it gave
encouraged
you a
the
glimpse
team
of
to
what
be
data strategy
proactive
means and how it can blend
and
with enterprise
to
architecture.
embrace
Thank you.
that
Wonderful.
culture.
Thank you, Vinay. Super interesting session
So
there. So thank you very much for the
it's one of
contribution. We
in one
are
of my
just a couple
previous
of minutes over time. So
organization,
if people have any
and
questions, please
basically
direct them
what
to
was the
Vinay
intent
directly.
is to
He's also
create
going to
a
be
platform that
moderating a
will
panel discussion
support
later, so
the
you can ask
proactive
questions there
exploration
too.
and
So
strategic investment in
yeah,
digital
big thank you
technologies.
again for
A
joining us
lot of
today.
the cases we are
Thank you.
mostly
All right,
reactive,
wonderful.
so
The next
there's
session will
something
be
coming
starting
up
right
and
away,
we just
so feel
follow
free
that
to
rather
make your
than
way there.
see what's
Thanks, everyone.
in the horizon and what are the things that could fit in our environment and help us to drive the organizational goal. And that was the intent of this initiative, what we then call the innovation hub. uh, what I've realized that one of the key things that we had to answer in that program, that why people will come to this platform, how this platform will empower the wider technology organization to innovate. And some of the key things that we identified, that we need a dedicated fund to support that innovation and create a platform where everyone can collaborate. And it's not only within the organization, it's also the ecosystem that we are in. And also in
plenty of
countries
data to
like
fuel
Australia,
your
Canada, and
business
USA,
operations.
there is that
Veracity is very
R&D
important today.
tax credits
Veracity is
that you
all
can
about truth. It's
leverage
about trusted
to
data.
drive your
How do you find
organizational
trusted
research
data
and
is very
experiments.
important.
So basically,
With
we
this,
created that platform
I will
to
leave you
explore
with
all these
um,
avenues
uh, few key
to
takeaways,
support the
and I hope this
people
insights is useful
to
for you.
innovate.
Please take a screenshot if you like to
So,
connect
as I
with
said,
me,
that we
and if you have
had to
any
ensure
questions, you
why
can drop me
employees
an email, or you can
will
even
submit their
in the
ideas.
chat
The
window,
answer
and
was
let's feel
if you have an
to connect
idea,
with
you can
each
pitch
other.
it. If
And I
that
hope
has
these
the merit,
learnings.
this platform will fund it. And it's not always about funding, because from a certain business area, there might be some ideas that looks fit for purpose, but that needs further exploration where you need the SME knowledge. And what we committed from the EA team is that we had domain ES for all the domains that we had. And if an idea has certain merits, we will allocate some SME time to work with the idea champion or the person who proposed that to mature it further. So this too was really critical for the initiative to be successful. And the as I said, what was the organizational motivation is just to have that outside in look into the technologies from other industries, to and be open minded and be adaptable. And it's the platform to create a platform for research, experimentation, and assessment, um, and assessing the technologies from desirability, feasibility, and viability perspective to ensure its strategic fit. Uh, because as you can appreciate, a lot of the cases, the technology itself might be very promising, but might might not be a good fit for your existing ecosystem. So that understanding before committing to the investment is really critical. However, we made it clear in that it was not an attempt, and that's what I would recommend. It should not monopolize the innovation through one platform. It could be one of the means to promote innovation. Um, there are areas, and based on the industry, enterprise, there are natural ways there you innovate. It's again not a platform to sort of uh, conflict with those initiatives. It's just another platform where if you have an idea just and you just need SME support or funding, you can just go through it. And a lot of the cases, another challenge from innovation perspective is that most of the organization have their annual planning process, and the budget gets allocated during that process. And whenever there is an innovation idea for funding, it often had to fight with those BAU activities. And when if you are cash constrained, you have caps on your capex and opex, which is the case more often than not. And if you have to fight for a bucket of money against the high priority BU activities where you can have immediate impacts, immediate revenues, or mitigating immediate risk. Whereas from innovation, a lot of the cases, you just need funding to evaluate the idea itself, or even when you implement to realize the benefits, it takes time. So a lot of the cases, those innovating ideas was just could not make it through the budget process. However, we made sure this bucket of money that we allocated for innovation does not become just an alternative source for BAU activities. So that's where we were really mindful about. So we had to come up with a simple checklist. If anyone asks, I have I want to do this, whether that will be eligible for as an innovation candidate. So we came up with a very simple assessment. So from our perspective, if we first question we would ask, if that candidate or that initiative got a business sponsor who will sponsor that, or got funding through the annual planning process. If so, it's not eligible because it can follow that natural course or through that annual planning process. And it has to be an innovative idea. So how we define innovation? So from that organization perspective, and we defined an innovation that is new from our perspective. It could be something that our competitor has adopted throughout the industry, but for us it's new. And also, even if it's
Cái
something
bài cái
we
bài
are developing based on
cái
an
bài bà
existing technology but a new
làm
module or
cho
new
rồi
functionality, we will still treat it as innovation.
bài
However,
sao nó bài
another checklist question was, can we implement it off the shelf? Is it a off the shelf solution, or is it a repeatable pattern where we can just plug and play? If that is so, we didn't really call it as an innovation, because in those cases the assessment is
con
not
rồi này
about the technology itself. It becomes whether that has a business case or not. Whereas the at the core of that
con coi coi
innovation hub was to facilitate the maturity assessment of the technology, and understand its use
coi cái
cases and
phone
application within the organization to drive what we're trying to achieve. Like, and where we need to
nó
further evaluate the
nó phải
technology
cái
before we make a decision. So that's
này
sort
cái
of the
sao
key
thế
questions we would ask
ये पर साइड
even to
पर थे
begin
कई
with,
बार
whether
वाले
one candidate is eligible for not. And we use multiple sort of channels to invite
यहाँ
ideas.
तो ये पे
So
नहीं नहीं
if any team has an idea, they could just come to us, and we would support
Iran
them
to kamu guru
with the
sakit
SMEs to mature their
interesting so
ideas and assess its merits. And also we would organize pitch events, and normally the pitch events would be theme based, like how we can automate, how we can achieve operational efficiency. So, and give people time to think about within their business areas and come up with the ideas, and that they could present. And it had benefits from the employees too. One thing is that it encouraged them to think. It gave them the development opportunity and to lead their own ideas and projects, that entrepreneurial uh, perspective to it. And also a lot of the cases, and even that came out as an employee survey, that people were not being able to connect what they're doing with what the company objective is at the broader level or in the technology level. And through these, they could find that linkage, that there is a certain theme that the organization is focusing on, and the events and the pitch events are targeting those specific themes, and you are coming up with those ideas. That's sort of will drive uh,
tapi ke support
those themes. And another benefits that it
ya
provided is the opportunity to basically present to the senior leadership team. It was an improvement opportunity for a lot of the junior employees to present to the senior leadership team, interact with them, and as we would assign mentor for each of the uh, people who came out with the
the
ideas to mature
query the
their
comments
ideas,
and that
that
about
really
this समस्या
improved them to sort of go through that process. So it had multiple benefits. And but we get a lot of the feedback from the candidates who went through that process, that how
यहाँबाट
that
भोचर आने
it
चाहिँ सुरु
helped them
भइहाल्ने रहेछ
from different perspectives.
कि
And as I said, that one of the key thing that we always try to do is to understand how that will fit into the total ecosystem
Yeah.
and whether that will drive
धन्यवाद
value for us or not.
यस्तो गरी
And
एकदम
one of the
एउटा
frameworks
के
that's
अरे
it's
एकदम
IDEO's
भयो अर्कै हो गेम हो
desirability, viability, and feasibility framework, and
सिस्टम
we use
पढ
that.
सिस्टम
I think
आर्किटेक्चरको
it's
बारेमा
an
पनि छ
excellent
कि अब
tool
आउँदैछ
for design thinking. uh, uh, and and it is very fit for purpose to assess a candidate's suitability. So it looks
कति बेला
any
पढ्छ
any
पढ्छ
any
के हान नि
initiative
त
from three perspectives. First one is the desirability.
कोही कोही त रमाइलो छ
It's basically
अनि
assessing
अरू
whether
सोच्नु
there is
पर्ने
an
होइन
interest within the organization, or is there a problem exist in the organization where this solution will be fit for purpose. Means the feasibility is to
ल
understand the technology maturity of the idea. Where is it? Are we able to sort of support
अब
that
तपाईँलाई
uh,
आर्किटेक्चर त
support that technology? Is our ecosystem ready to do so? And do we have the necessary skills and capacity to support that?
कुरा गर्थ्यो
And viability is
अनि यसले
basically the
चाहिँ
commercial side of things, whether that gives you the benefits uh, for the investment you are making for it. I'll just quickly share the process of the evaluation, just to give you a picture. So the stage one was always the ideation stage, where we will invite the ideas
यसलाई त
from
एकदम
different people. And we would do a lot of the comms
भ्यू गर्छ
activities to do so, and the output was a list of innovation candidates. And once we have those candidates, we would share that with the domain ES, who would assess the potential value of the idea from organization perspective, and would say yes, that makes sense or not. That's sort of the stage get one. And then the ideas that would pass through that, the domain ES would work with the functional
यो
area or
जारी छ
the team that proposed that innovation and create a position on a page, which is basically the initial assessment. Is And with that, they will provide a detailed recommendation whether this is something that should go for further evaluation. And
पढ्नु
if
गयो
that passes through
क्या
that and the EA recommends that yes, it has certain merits and we need to further explore it, the next step would be a detailed research, where the domain EA will spend more time with further consultation
इन्टरभ्यू
across the
यसैले
relevant
इन्टरभ्यू
business areas. And at this stage, that the ESLT team will
सिस्टमको
be
बारेमा
involved,
कुरा
and
गर्छ
also the wider technology SLT team, to see if they could relate the potential
रन
of
गरेर
that
छोड्नु अरू
technology, and they
हेरिदिन्छु कि
can
अब
see a challenge in
ब्राउजर
their
एक्सटेन्सन
business
अरूतिर
areas
काम
where
गराइदिन्छ कि
they could leverage it. And if that passes through and
प्रोलाई
passes the
पढ्नुपर्ने
DVF
सिस्टमको
test
सँग
and
एकदम रिलेटेड काम
all
कुराहरू छ
good, then we would move to the business case and then move to the POC.
$80
But it
टिकटको
could
पैसा हो
be
यो प्रोग्राम
either way around, because a lot of the cases we see that we had to do a POC to better understand the like technology within our environment before we even move to the business case. So, and once it went through all of these, then we sort of had a signature ready idea. And and just to clarify that the innovation hub will fund the time and resources up to the POC. So it sort of assesses the merit of the idea, and then if when it passes through all the stages, we would say that we have an idea that is ready for our operational environment. But the the funding of that would come through sort of business areas, because we would engage businesses throughout that process. They already knew that, okay, what the technology is all about, what the problem it will address, what the benefit it will drive, and so they could decide, okay, if this is something we want to adopt and implement in our in our sort of operational environment. And it has been really successful, and it really helped us to get filter out the ideas that really sort of addressing our the key challenges, some of the key challenges. The business units were more confident in adopting that because we would do those POCs to just validate all the key assumptions and uncertainties. So again, this was an initiative led by EA, which made a good uh, made some good results. So thought I would share with the community, and probably this sort of
Siddhartha
approach
हाल्छौँ नि
might
दाजु
work within your organization setup too. So that's sort of the story I wanted to share. Happy to take on any questions that you have.
Okay. Thank you for that, Fuad. Super interesting session. We've got one question here from Andre. How can EA frameworks help prioritize technical debt reduction without stifling innovation?
Yep. So I guess, and that's a really good question. Like from our organizational perspective, and similar questions that we had, but the thing that we first ask, do how do we define technical debt from a technology or technology perspective, and how do we quantify that? A lot of the cases, quantifying the technical debt is critical, and there is no one solution there. So what we sort of did, even in that case, we developed a framework to quantify technical debt, and as you know, there is two component to it. Is a cost to recover and cost of divergence. So once you have those two key metrics in your hand, you know the consequence of incurring technical debt. And a lot of the cases, technical debt is not inherently bad. A lot of the cases, you had to incur technical debt for some other priorities, but maybe the time to market, or resolving any critical urgency that will impact your core business. So you had to incur the technical debt. But what is important to understand what the debt is, understand what is the recovery plan, and understand the consequences so that you can plan accordingly to rectify that.
Okay. Wonderful. All right. Well, we're pretty much at time now. So a big thank you, Fuad, for joining us today. Super interesting session. For everyone watching, next up we have a panel discussion, which is going to really be really engaging. So get all your questions ready for that one. Yeah, big thank you for joining us, Fuad. And yeah, we hope to see you at one of our events soon.
Thank you.
Thanks.
many years as the enterprise architect, and Tower is a forward-thinking insurance company here in New Zealand, New Zealand owned, and it works it offers insurance across New Zealand and the Pacific Islands. So really, I'm passionate about maturing enterprise architecture as a discipline, not just the technical excellence, but also blending in other things, particularly like lean, which I think is a superset of agile, systems thinking, bit of philosophy from the East and West, bit of psychology. I think that's all blends to make PA stronger. So thank you. Vinay?
Thank you, Mike. Maher, would you like to go next?
Yes, thanks, Vinay. So, hey everyone, my name is Maher. I'm based in Sydney, Australia, and I'm the consulting services manager for Mega as an enterprise architecture software in Australia. Probably many of you have heard about the tool, or probably even use the tool. So my role is making sure that organizations are successful in their EA programs, whether they are just onboarding the program or whether they're trying to mature the program. I make sure that the clients are making use of the software in the best way, and also making sure that they are successful in their EA programs, whether it's again transformation program, in an onboarding program, or they're just starting their EA.
Thank you, Maher. Imran, would you like to go next, please?
Thanks, Vinay. Good afternoon, everyone. Good day, everyone. My name is Imran Merchant. I'm the Director of Enterprise Architecture at Australian Digital Health. I just gave the presentation a couple of hours ago. I hope we have met already in some cases. Yes, I have been practicing enterprise architecture for 15 years, being in the industry for 25 years, worked in different parts of the world, in Middle East and Australia now, and just trying to add value to the business outcomes in my company, in my agency. Back to you, Vinay.
Thank you, Imran and Maher. My name is Vinay Simha. I'm the Director and Principal Enterprise Architect at Philips. I'm based in Bangalore. I'm responsible for transforming Philips' strategy into enterprise architecture and also deploy the roadmaps needed with alignment with the digital transformation that Philips is embarking on. I have two areas of responsibilities in Philips. One is an end-to-end architecture for master data management and data governance, and the second portfolio I have is the end-to-end data architecture. So let's get started. We have about 35 minutes of time for this session. I'll start posing a series of questions to our esteemed panelists here, and we also have a Q&A chat that can be running. I have a request to all the audience who are here. There is a surprise gift for one participant in the audience who can ask the most effective question and as many questions that audience can throw. So moment a audience member poses a question in the chat window, and if others resonated with, please give it a thumbs up. You have an emoji that can be linked to that question. Please go and give a thumbs up if you like that question. And the person in the audience who gets the maximum likes will have a special gift that will be announced at the end of the session. So you don't have to wait until the end of the session. Please start sharing your questions as and when you start hearing our panelists sharing their insights. So let's get started with the first question. In this topic of today's discussion, we have a term or a phrase called adapting to disruption, right? So let's take this term. In the face of rapid technological disruptions, and we all hear the term AI, right? Artificial intelligence and cloud native solutions. Why must enterprise architects focus on balancing the innovation and ensuring the operational stability in the enterprises we represent? And Mike, I would request you to go first and share your insights, please.
Okay, thanks. Actually, I'll just start my timer so I'll make sure I don't talk too long. So yeah, I'm going to turn that question around a wee bit and say, well, context is everything. So it depends a lot on your company and your industry. So if we look at general insurance, for example, up until 2020, we talked a lot about disruption and we're thinking about platform business models cutting our lunch or AI devouring it. So something like Google moving into insurance, I think they dipped their toe in India. But the real disruption for that industry was capital. So in 2020, with the pandemic and then all the impacts that come after it, capital got very, very expensive, and that became a massive disruptor for the industry. So it came down to a lot of fundamentals around return on risk-based capital, loss ratios, expense ratios, a lot of the fundamentals of the industry that were really being disrupted. Cost of claims went up, they skyrocketed. So I think, yeah, we need to be able to walk and chew gum at the same time, look at AI, work out where it is in the maturity curve and when we want to jump on board and invest, but also don't forget the fundamentals that could be disrupting us.
Thank you, Mike. Imran, would you like to go next?
Yes, thank you so much, Vinay. So I think it's a very interesting question. I always see this as a paradoxical talks, paradoxical discussion. When I say paradoxical means innovation versus stability, right? This is always balance. We need to have it. So innovation means bringing new thing into the equation of the business, but also balancing something about the past things. So for example, innovation will bring about business agility, talking about transformation in the company as well. But stability is all about reliability, performance, making sure the risk has been handled properly. We are talking about the legacy system and harmonizing. So I think to me it's all about the balance of, and I always use a notion called bimodal architecture. Bimodal architecture is coming from the word called bimodal IT, which is coming from Gartner. So I use the notion in my company called bimodal architecture. There are two approach. Mode one, talk about innovations into things. Mode two, also make sure that things are going well and we are also running the business properly. So to me, it's more about bimodal architecture. Back to you.
Thank you, Imran. Meher, looking forward for your insights as well.
Yeah, I think very interesting, and the answers were really in the right court. So it's about balancing that risk coming, and at the same time making sure that operation wise we don't lose that legacy systems or even the usability and the operations are running perfectly well. So I think the counsel or the advice that I usually give the customers is to have or adapt an incremental approach in those new technologies, because most of the customers we work with in different industries, they will always be quite quick to adapt or think of adapting the technology quite fast. So they fall sometimes in the trap of not testing properly, and that new technology even is not tested properly in the market. So I always say that try to have an incremental approach in adopting that, and don't just disrupt all your operations because a new technology is coming in. If something has been working in the company, don't just kill it because something new has come in. Just use whatever you have.
You're on mute,
Are you on
Vinay.
mute, Vinay?
When there is a mic button at the bottom, if you see the mic button at the bottom, you need to press it again. Yeah. Oh, good now.
That's it.
No, we cannot hear you still now. We have lost the host, guys. This was not never there in our disaster DR plan, which is good. You can hop off and hop in again, Vinay. We are all okay to wait for you. In the meantime, we can keep rolling the ball. Yeah, you may need to rejoin again. Vinay, we can't hear you.
Hey, while Vinay is working that out, and we've all had that in our presentations, why don't we look at James's question? That was a really good question.
Yeah,
how do you adapt your architecture where the perceived pace of change is significantly higher than the pace of actual disruption? This is often the case when new technologies are at the top of the hype cycle. And yeah, hype is something we're dealing with all the time as enterprise architects. The other thing I think we find as well is people are hyping these technologies up so that companies like ours will invest in these technologies, help them do their R&D, even if they're not charging a loss. We're spending our time to help mature their products that are less mature in the hype cycle. It's certainly something that I see, and it's picking the right time to jump on board, particularly with a lot of the AI things, is really key. What do you guys think?
I'm still trying to unpack the question. Maher, what do you think? What's your opinion on that one?
It's coming back to probably the incremental approach that I said, and probably I can add. I'm going to use the buzzword, but not intentional to disrupt it. But the idea is to stay also connected with the strategic vision of the company. So many new technologies are out there, but so many times those technologies, they're not really intended or needed for the company. So why to adapt? Why to spend so much time and effort and waste everyone's even dollars and try to adapt something which won't be useful or aligned with what the company is trying to do or trying to achieve? Maybe our strategic priority at the moment is to improve customer satisfaction, for example, and we're trying to have an technology which is good for our internal operations and won't even be reaching the customer. So I would say try to balance between what it's good for the company, your strategy, what you're trying to achieve, and then new technologies will come and go. I mean, we're living in the age of new technologies coming very, very quick. So new technologies will always come. I would say try to stay true to what the strategic vision of the company is.
Good point. Let's check Vinay mic first. Vinay, can you just now?
Am I audible now? Is
We are
my
audible.
voice
You are
clear?
audible now.
Excellent.
Correct.
Sorry for the technical glitch.
It's all good. All good. All good. All good. All good. Good.
Great. Can we segue to the next question?
Yeah.
We were just having a quick chat about James's great question in the chat there.
Sure.
Around, you said that one on the right hand side. So, yeah, looking at the perceived change being higher than the actual change, and where technologies are in the hype cycle and when we jump into them. So I think it's a really good topic, particularly with AI on board. For your particular company, when's the right time to move to something that's perhaps not that mature yet, but might be a really good advantage for you?
Thank you, Mike. So now the other aspect of today's topic is about being agile, right? So why must enterprise architectures be agile in today's rapidly changing technological landscape? It's a very important aspect of not only being accurate and also strategic, but also being agile and lean as well. Uh, would you like to go first, Meher, or if we can start with you?
Yep, sure. So the topic of agility always comes, and as enterprise architects, we're always asked to make sure that we are delivering the services and IT-wise, system-wise, or business service-wise, agile services and agile systems. So I think it's quite important to adapt the new technologies quickly. And some of the things that I've thought about in terms of the agility to respond to those disruptions. So having let me give just probably one example, and then I let the others also comment on it. So I would say try to respond to the disruption with resilient architecture. To be very specific with the how the systems are built. So the reusable services that we talk about, the macro services that we have, in addition to what kind of services that we can adapt and what kind of rationalization we can have in the IT systems to make sure that our technology, our company is adaptable enough to those changes and also agile at the same time, not to disrupt the company's operation because of just trying to be agile for the sake of being agile.
Excellent. Imran, would you like to go next and share your insights?
Thank you so much. So I think my presentation was somehow covering this point. So basically, yes, it's all about digital business transformation. So I think if you see these days in world, business would like to transform. We cannot stop business by having an old process of architecture, governance, and all these things. So I think from transformation perspective, people would like to transform their business model. They would like to transform the process transformation. They would like to transfer the customer experience. So we have to be adaptable and agile towards that perspective as an enterprise architecture team. And I think I would like to add, what about the point about the technological evolution? There are so many evolutions are coming in terms of adoption to the new technology. Market demands are changing. Business agility is coming. So I think from that angle, we need to work on with the business to basically adapt and agile as well.
Excellent. Mike, there is a question from Kathy in the audience Q&A. The question is about how do we move from waterfall governance to an agile approach to governance to enable time to market reduction? Would you like to share your insights on this question, please?
Yeah, so certainly what I favour, I think, if you've been listening to my previous talk, you know that I favour lean type approaches. And I think as part of that lean type approach, architectural governance can benefit from that where appropriate, and it depends on your company. Guardrails is a really good way to go, I think. So focusing on architectural principles, not the TOGAF type principles, but some really good lean architectural principles that help to guide you. I always like a 3x3, no more than 9. So one of my principles I always have in there is to foster and encourage CI/CD and allowing us to reduce the cost of changing our mind, for example. Getting in patterns in place, and we probably don't define standards, we're working with people to define standards. So define the guardrails, and those are key parts of your guardrails, and then focus your governance on what's falling outside those guardrails. So make it as lean, low friction as possible to do the right thing. Give them an option to do things that aren't sort of easily within that, and govern those. It's kind of the way I look at it.
Great. Thank you, Mike. Hope, Kathy, this resonates with you as well. But if you still have a follow-up question, please feel
Vinay,
free to
Vinay, if
drop
you
in.
don't mind, can I add 2 cents on this one, if you don't mind?
Please, Imran, please go ahead. Yes.
Thank you so much. So I think from my perspective, Kathy, as we discussed in the presentation, it's not about defining the principles and governance body. To me, it's about the mindset change in the agency and the culture change in the company, in the organization. So I think we first need to work on the cultural mindset change. That are we only applying the agility only in the projects in terms of rituals like Scrum, daily Scrums, and all these things, but actually the mindset is changed or not. So that's an important point to me. I think we have to work as a cultural change and cultural change in the mindset of the people of the company. So to me, start with the mindset change of the culture. Otherwise, talking about the projects will not help you, because I think that that's what we are doing it right now. We are changing the mindset. We are talking to the whole stakeholders and completely bringing the new mindset and culture to the whole company. So I think it's cultural change, the mindset shift of the leaders, and that's the most important thing to me. Kathy, I hope it answers your question.
Great. Thank you. Um, so let's segue into the next aspect of how do we really bring the agile into the enterprise architecture frameworks. So we understand as enterprise architects that many organizations struggle to do this. So why do you think many organizations struggle to integrate these agile practices, which are very essential, as we just discussed, and how and why do they struggle to integrate this with enterprise architecture frameworks? Mike, would you like to go first and explain through your insights?
Yeah, so you can probably guess. My view definitely is a lot of the architectural frameworks are too prescriptive. So I think being highly prescriptive in most situations isn't where you want to be. Sometimes you might need that. Again, if you're doing air traffic control systems or whatever, you're going to need that. So I think being more sort of principles based and working out what's right in your context and your situation. So, for example, where I was previously, we had 4 enterprise architects, about 100 architects. Now, where I am, there's one enterprise architect and 4 or 5 other architects. You have to apply completely different things in those two situations. You can't treat them the same. You can't lift and shift a methodology.
Great. Thank you, Mike. Maher, any thoughts around
I think
why?
I'll probably concur on everyone's point. So the cultural shift is one point. The overcomplicated framework sometimes that comes from EA also doesn't make it easy. And with Agile, we were moving away from over documentation of a lot of things and trying to be more agile and quick in adapting to those changes. So I would say the cultural shift. I would say a balanced governance with less documentation and more actual implementation of whatever changes that needs to be done in order to make sure that the systems are adapting to the needed business priorities. One of the things that also comes in mind on this point is about the skills in that organization as well. So often the framework is there when we take the people, process, and systems in place. So often you know that the processes are there as a framework, the systems are there, but sometimes people can be a little bit slow in adapting. Coming back to Imran's point, so I think developing the skills of the organization can also help in making sure that the agile is being really adapted in the organization.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, Imran, there is a question from Duncan in the audience Q&A, and it talks about with a focus on governance. So, governance typically defines the pace and volume of architecture. How do you navigate this in a more lean architectural model?
I think it's a
Would you
very
like to share some insights because it's relevant to few aspects we discussed?
Yes, I hope I'm deciphering your question correctly, Duncan. But I think, in my opinion, it's very important. Basically, to me, have we first and foremost, I think, going back to the previous point, Vinay, are we unlearning as an enterprise architecture team? I think we all have to unlearn something what we have learned for so many decades. So I think the first phase to me, it's about unlearning and relearning the agile methods. So unlearning what we have learned in terms of classical ADM cycle or any cycle, then also about learning the new ways of working. Second thing, what about our terms of references and principles of the agile practices, right? So I shared in my presentation about the something concept called minimum viable architecture. Rather than creating the complete architecture concepts, can we go towards the notion for minimum viable architecture? So I think as we have the Scrum model, can we create the minimum viable architecture model for our own architecture practice, right? Rather than boiling the whole ocean, can we slice and dice the approach, and can we create the lean architecture model, the architecture model which can serve us? Do we have a backlog of the architecture? Do we conduct the retrospective for the architecture? Do we perform the minimum viable architecture notion? So I think we have to change, learn, and also create a principles for us. So I think I would like to showcase something which I was presenting in my own slide, which is about open agile architecture, which is coming from open group, right? So what is the vision we have it in the mind? Vision is basically to ensure business agility by integrating architecture with agile practices. But see the core principles from open agile. Core principles are modularity, collaboration, outcome focus, continuous evolution, and value stream focus. So you see the vision is completely changing. The principles are changing. So I think that's where we all have to work and collectively create these principles and in the vision in the mind while drafting and creating something called lean architecture principles.
Thank you.
Back to you.
I had a similar thought about what could be those principles of agile methodologies that we as architects should focus upon in our frameworks. So along those lines of what Imran mentioned, Maher, can you also please share some recommended principles that we need to adopt as well?
Yeah, sure. Minimum viable, just enough architecture is really good point. And I think another thing I can probably add on that is to say leverage on tooling, on automation as much as possible. So with cloud native solutions out there, there are so many opportunities now in the market to reduce the overhead and the time spent by the staff on maintaining legacy and old systems. And it can bring some agility and leanness also in terms of what the architecture, how the architecture model should be. With less risk as well in many components. I would say automation tooling can be one option where organization can move more towards having a lean architecture.
Excellent, thank you. Mike, would you like to share your experience and insights as well, please?
Yeah, I think the principle is really important. I like the principle of making the decision as late and close to the real place of work as practical. And you don't want to take that too far, but definitely that's where guardrail approach helps for that to happen, because it does empower teams further down and allows us to focus on more strategic considerations. Continual improvement, architecture from the ground up, so you're making sure we support all of those good things, A/B testing, toggle switching, experimentation. CD pipeline is really key for that. So there's some principles like that we can bring in. Architecting for technology and business scalability and optionality around our operating models and so forth. Gregor Hobe has a great quote there. He says, the most important job for us as architects is to preserve optionality for the business. And I like that. I think that's a really good rubric.
Excellent. Thank you. Very interesting insights, Mike. So now we discussed about why. We started with why. I would also like to understand all your thoughts around what aspects of the adoption of these agile technologies are important. So my next question is about what are those best practices, that organizations should adopt so that our enterprise architectures remain adaptable for these rapid changing disruptions. And if you can also share your insights with some examples on how you have navigated through these technological disruptions, that would be a very valuable set of lessons that the audience can learn, as well as myself as well. So can we start with you, Imran, first on what are those best practices that we can adopt?
So I think in terms of best practices, I'll tell you a really interesting example. Yesterday, I was working in my company, and I'll tell you a real-time scenario which happened yesterday only. One of my bosses asked me to basically look into different ERP solution, and my team member was definitely doing his due diligence. And I asked him, why the hell you are not going towards the ChatGPT and ask ChatGPT to help you, right? And he never used the ChatGPT. That's quite interesting. And I asked him that ChatGPT can help you. You just need to have a right prompt engineering practice in place. And he said, what is prompt engineering? I said, okay, just go to ChatGPT and ask him what is prompt engineering is. So ChatGPT can help you, right? That's a real life example. So I think, and then what he's done, he's created a marvelous complete metrics for me, list of all the ERPs. What are the costs? What are the strengths? What are the weaknesses? What are the total cost of ownership? What are the pros and cons and strengths and weaknesses? So this immediately came from the ChatGPT platform. So I think we all have to learn together how to leverage these technologies which are available in the market and apply it into the practice. And then he was working until 9 p.m. himself to work on these things. So I think the example is very clear. The technologies are available these days, and one of my teachers told me AI will not replace you. People who are using AI will replace you. So it's more about leveraging the technology correctly. So it's not about AI will replace us. It's about people who are leveraging AI correctly that will be replaced by the people. So I think that's what my 2 cents to you, and I can come back to you after listening to my panelist members.
Absolute. Maher, looking forward to understand best practices from you.
Yep, that was interesting. I think one of the things probably I would also say, trying to link to the other questions too, is to try to stay ahead of all the emerging technologies. So with the best practices, you can look at the successful companies out there. We always give those big names as example: Netflix, Amazon, Uber, Spotify. So this kind of big technological companies who have been really following up the trend and really staying ahead of the trend in a way, and getting that competitive edge. So in many projects that we've done lately, I see many organizations very slow in trying to not to adapt to technology, but try to just stay ahead of technology. We're always coming late. And as an enterprise architect, I think one of our roles can be to try to introduce this kind of changes. So the way Imran just gave the example, for instance, with ChatGPT, but can be similar examples in many other different industries with different technologies. So I would say stay ahead of technological trends. As enterprise architects, try to be that innovative, try to act and play that innovative role where you can really make sure to introduce these changes slowly with the correct governance, but introduce those new technologies to the company.
Excellent. That also needs a mind shift change, right, Imran and Maher? With the advent of AI, traditional ways of just blindly following available framework like TOGAF may not be viable with agile and fast changing disruptions. Absolutely. So now there's a question which is very relevant to this from Jaidev Raut and the audience Q&A. What are the approach which EA should follow in helping mindset change in the organizations, which is sometimes very difficult. It's something that very resonates with all of us. And this is especially important when an employee is working for a very long time, because an organization continues to work or function the way it has been running for decades, right? So how do we bring those mindset change? Mike, if you can share some insights from your experience. We are now segueing from what to how through this question. And how important is a mindset change? I think Imran highlighted. How do we adopt some of those approaches? Have you brought in some of these into the work that you're doing, Mike? If you can share some insights.
Okay, it's a sort of question that's going to get an unusual answer. So for me, I think being less sure about things is a really good start. Being very curious and being less certain about everything. I think in organisations, we talk a lot about diversity, and we're getting a lovely, great, diverse workforce. I'd love to see more of these skills from other areas outside sort of European-centred ways of looking at things coming into our practices. So, for example, if you look in your own country, New Zealand, the Māori culture, the local Indigenous culture, master storytellers. And I think, we can learn a lot from that as enterprise architects, being master storytellers. Often it's not having a better solution that is the difference. It's being able to tell that story in a more compelling way, in a better way to the stakeholders. It's no point being right if you can't convince them. So I think, we can look to bring in a lot more skills around behavioural psychology. Daniel Kahneman, if you looked at him, he's got a lot of great work there around storytelling and how you can strip out a lot of information and come up with a more cohesive story that's going to be more convincing to your stakeholders. So I'll use one quick example. So an analogy there, particularly in our business, when an exec wanted to use AI for a particular thing, and I was saying, well, it's pretty immature at the moment. Now, I knew this exec, he loved cars, he was a motorhead, and I sort of said to him, let's say you had a trucking company, a national trucking company, and you wanted to replace your fleet. Would you go all in on electric today? Because that's what you're saying with this particular type of AI. It's not that you're wrong, but you might be early, and that can be the same thing. And it's like that analogy just clicked. You know, you can write all the papers you want, but you're not going to make as much progress as one good story and one good analogy. So that'd be, yeah, something different to think about.
Indeed, absolutely. Thank you. This was very insightful, Mike. So, Imran, there is a follow-up question on the AI from Shiv Kumar TG. If
Yes.
you can clarify on how do we use AI in a respective EA practice?
Okay,
You can also
interesting.
share some of the use cases. Meher, you can chime in after Imran
I think
to help clarify to Shiva.
I think it's a wonderful question, Shiva, and I would like to, and I'm sure Maher would also add his points. So I'll tell you an example, right? So I wanted to create a business capability model for the human resource capability function in my company, right? For example, I can go to ChatGPT and I ask that, first of all, how to do the prompt engineering. We should actually ask him that, please help me as an enterprise architect or business architect. What is the basically level 1 and level 2 capability models for the human resource capability? Or what about the finance module as well, or finance management and financial management as well? So these kind of a clear example of the business capability model, the high level generic data models, the high level technology models will help you to get it from the GPT as well. So yes, Shiva, I am right now using it to create a baseline version of capability model, but again, of course, we have to customize it and tailor it according to my company. But yes, we are leveraging it for basic things like this one, even for the value streams, even for the process modelings as well, for the standard ones. Back to you, Mahar.
Yeah, probably just following up on that point. In our software also, we use that capability. So not only building that, but trying to align the systems and the technologies. And sometimes the definitions and terminologies of all the frameworks can really get very confusing with a thin line between what's an application, what's a technology. So the AI can help in these ways in trying to make that decisive point to say that these are applications. And if you want to ask which applications support which business capabilities, the AI can also help you in these kind of reducing the effort on the teams, the application owners, or the capability managers to say that which applications I have. When I have this capability map and these are my applications, how do I know which business capabilities my applications are really supporting? So it can be these kind of alignments between the IT in terms of the IT inventory and the business with your capability maps, sometimes even customer journey, pain points, etc. So there are so many areas, probably one or two examples as you saw, that AI can help reduce the effort on the enterprise architects and bringing in some value as well.
Good point, Mahir. And I think Vinay, these days now, product vendors are also embedding the AI capabilities in the enterprise architecture tools as well, which is very useful for us. So rather than going and opening the chat GPT, Mahir can tell us now we are linking the tools with the AI on the back end, which can help us to basically do it on the fly. So I think these capabilities will also help us going forward in the enterprise architecture tools, in the going forward in the industry.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you, Imran Meher. So this also needs a cultural change, right? With the changes that are happening. So the next question is about how do we bring in those culture of agility within enterprise architecture teams? Because it's not just one person who becomes agile can able to transform the enterprise. It also needs to be a culture that needs to be embedded within an organization for us to move towards an agile way of working. And I would like to add one more question to this, which we can combine, is about when we bring in teams